Good evening and welcome to Let's Talk. And what I like to do always is to talk with people who are in the middle of the community, who are having a special function, having a special thing in their life that makes them different from others. You know, these days everybody's talking about corruption. Newspapers are full of National Youth Service, 48 people in jail, and everybody said, hooray, we're going to win the fight on corruption. Others say, it's not yet over, guys, we're just starting. Now I saw another message today that our AntiCorruption Commission is the weakest link. And I got a bit surprised because they have been for many years fighting corruption. And all of a sudden they seem to be the one hindering the cases for corruption. That's why I thought, with who can I talk the best? And he was so friendly to receive me and to say, okay, let's talk about it. Mr. Eliud Wabukala, and his function still is an archbishop. I think not many countries have an archbishop as the chairman of the anti-corruption. Archbishop, welcome in the program.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leo.
And I'm very happy to meet you. I met you and we did an interview years ago about the church. Yes. And I remember one thing, you were very outspoken about the attitude of a lot of people in the country at that time.
Yes.
You know, you have been very much involved in the constitution forming. You was quite active. Now we are working under the new constitution, and you are part of it. You are the chairman of the anti-corruption. Now if you look back and say, was it good what we did at that time, or should we have done it a bit differently?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Leo. I think at that time we were, as a society, in a crisis, and we needed a new constitution, although we were not of the same view about how it should come up to look like. You can remember we had several drafts ending up at Bomas and this 2010 constitution that is now guiding us. The important thing that was put in that constitution, apart from a whole long length thing on the rights, people's rights, the Bill of Rights is quite big. But I think the drafters wanted to, not just to allow the rights, but also to put a control. And they put Chapter 6, which is leadership and integrity. Actually, integrity and leadership. And
integrity had a lot of your interest.
Yes, that was my interest. And that chapter then was to be strengthened so that it checks the excesses of those who want to claim rights unlimited. Mm-hmm. Because rights have responsibilities. And I think that was important. We passed the constitution and felt, let's go for it. But of course in churches we were wondering whether a few other things were not right. But we said, like that days of Samuel, these people want a king, give them.
Give them a king, but know what will happen.
But then wait.
But what I was wondering, you're an archbishop.
Yeah.
Why did you become, anyway, an archbishop, or at least working in the church?
After high school, I realized that although I was serving in various areas of government and mainly in teaching, but during all that time, I was combining the work I did and preaching. I started my work as a junior civil servant in the then what we call provincial administration. I worked in Nakuru, then I went to Narok, but I felt I was not meant for office. I wanted to be with the people. So I moved to teaching. That was very good. Because as a teacher, then I had the entire young people with me. And so in every school I went, I did teaching, but on Sunday I had a church in one of the classrooms.
Mm-hmm.
So the calling then became so nice that I even quit teaching. And so of course I taught all levels of education in the country. I taught in primary schools, secondary, and actually the final from 6th class was one I taught. Ended up at university level teaching these theological colleges, universities. Well, by the time I was picked as Archbishop, I was teaching at St. Paul's University, Limuru. Basically, I was then involved directly with the church.
The church is an institution that has to bring Jesus Christ, but also has to take care of injustice in the community. Jesus did more than preaching alone. Do you think, when the time you were Archbishop, that the church is taking that position right clear?
Yes, I think part of I joining the church, particularly as bishop, because you cannot divorce the work of Archbishop and a bishop, because you must progress from being a bishop to Archbishop. Mm-hmm. And when I was a bishop then, I was also picked by all the Protestant churches in the country to become the chairman of NCCK. And that was the time when we were very active in this country trying to seek change.
And then, but I didn't understand, because I interviewed it at that time, and I thought, he's a man of God. He tries to change a lot of things in the church. He's a good leader. He sees the injustice in the community. And then all of a sudden, I see you become the chairman of the AntiCorruption. I had to think 3 times before I understood how people in that kind of function all of a sudden get taken over this, not so appreciable job, isn't it?
That's true. You are not the only one who thought the same. Mm-hmm. Even I myself wondered what this would be. I had to sit with the family and friends and then say, should I go there? But I realized I was part and parcel of this new constitution. And I could recognize very quickly that there's a chapter in the constitution whose role can make me be there. That was integrity and leadership, particularly integrity issues. And so I said, let me go. I accepted. It's not an easy job, but let me go, because we made the constitution. Mm-hmm. And if now it falls on somebody to be there, because not many people want to come to this office. And I think, Mr. Leo, if we want to make a change in the society, the institutions like these ones should be very highly supported, because people have not understood properly what EACC stands for. Under the Constitution, there are several mandates. And one of the biggest mandates is to enforce Chapter 6 of the Constitution. And of course, there are many other articles in the Constitution which talk about values and principles of governance. All that fall under this institution. So perhaps to bring you to speed, we have almost 6 directorates in this commission. One is on education and awareness of the public. There's another one on leadership and integrity. It's a directorate. There's another one which deals with prevention services, in which case the commission puts in place activities that are geared towards preventing corruption. For instance, we look at systems of an organization, mm-hmm. and then we can detect the weak areas. Those are the risks. And then we recommend controls. We could come even to your station. If you invite us, we check your systems and then get the weak areas and recommend, so that you have a system that can be audited and say it has integrity. First of all, the integrity of the system. And this we have done. Last year alone, we did almost 20 county governments, their systems. We have also been invited in many ministries, including NYS. We did system analysis and found the loopholes and recommended. And this, we are being invited almost every year.
So, NYS, you bring it up yourself. You were aware that things were going wrong?
Yeah, after the first thing, we had to go to check the systems, and we got a report, and I recommended that they should then implement it and see how to seek to put the loopholes.
Because I think that is also a weak point, that we don't know in the community exactly the role. People see you as a group of police officers running around, investigating cases, putting people in jail when necessary, and bringing one after the other. Do you have different directors who all are in a different area?
Yes.
The ethical area, that is what you like to see developing, isn't it?
Well, maybe to bring it back to that, after we have done the preventive, of course preventive has many other activities which we may not just finish here, but we want to work with many stakeholders, including schools, where right now we have what we call integrity clubs, to see how we can influence the young people. We have made partnerships with religious organizations. Right now we have a memorandum of understanding to help them, to help us get into society. We also want to very seriously get into media, partnerships with the media. We have partnerships with civil society groups. Actually, have even had visits with people from the street. Some call themselves Wabukhala wananchi. We want everybody that is able to help us. So we want to create strong partnerships that can help us work on the moral fiber of our society. And then after that, we have another department, the legal department. Here there are many lawyers, those who help various things. It's the directorate of the legal directorate. Then we also have investigation. That's now where you people know more.
That is what people talk about.
Yeah, and yet it's just almost one directorate. And then everybody wants that one alone, the enforcement part.
But you probably can understand that.
Yeah.
If we see that our leaders are walking away with so much money, which has been brought together by hard working of the community, now we have seen now the ad hoc action about corruption. What do you think? Are you happy with that?
Well, I think if you listened to the president on that day, is it Madaraka? He said something like, this is our second war of liberation.
You agree with that?
Yeah, I agree, because when we reach such a stage, we need that, because when you do a war of liberation, you use every technique that is that's available. And there is also what I noticed the last 2-3 weeks, a lot of public anger, against people who are corrupt, and even against institutions, So I think that's a good thing.
That's the start point.
It's a starting point, So I think I support that in terms of heavy punishment to trigger up the change. Now, when we come back to prevention by teaching, we say, now look, if you don't change, that's what will happen.
You have heard Mr. Lumumba, Mr. Ngera, and they all go out of the door after a while. And now they put you here as an archbishop. And the strange thing is, every commission which has been in the Constitution, which has been talked over in the Constitution, when they need a new chairman, they elect a new chairman. But you are the only chairman who has to be agreed by MPs to be put here. Is that not a weak point?
No. That's not true. All the constitutional office, there's vetting in Parliament, all of them. There's not much difference. Once the commission was formed, then it goes to enjoy the privileges of Chapter 15 of the Constitution. And that chapter then means every chairperson and commissioner pass through the system or parliament until the vetting. Even, you remember even the Chief Justice, you saw that happen. So that is not, it's not true that it's only the chair of this commission that is passing through parliament by vetting.
But what I don't understand is that now all of a sudden the president tells us we have to do something on all this corruption. All of a sudden we see a lot of people in jail, and you had a lot of cases. You brought them even in court, but they were refused on one way or another.
So after a case has been built up, for example, we have investigated, we do investigation, and our lawyers have made a file. The committee we call enforcement has passed it. Our role is now to get that file to the DPP, and that's where we end. So for us, we have done our bit. Now it's upon the DPP and the courts to deal with the matter.
And now with these new cases, the DPP has taken things further.
Yeah, but of course it's working on it. It's one file, and it has not yet gone to courts as much. It is there, but it's still going on. What we have done ourselves, we have taken so many files. Even before the new DPP came in, we had prepared several. So immediately he went to office. I remember signing about 48 files. So he has them. But
you cannot move them further.
No, we can't. The law doesn't give us that.
So that is frustrating sometimes, isn't it?
It can be very frustrating.
I think so. You see it happening, you know the people involved, you have investigated, and now it's there.
And then when it goes to court again, you find constitutional injunctions. And then the case stays there sometimes 2 years. But the Kenyans don't understand that it's not as it's elsewhere where the delay is.
So the weakest link is not the anti-corruption, but you can say the weakest link is the step further. Now, how can we change that?
Well, I think Parliament is hearing what we are saying, and they can help us in strengthening those laws. And because now that this war on corruption must be fought, therefore we must look for what is making us not succeed.
But I understand that you took this position not as a police officer.
No.
What people like you to be. They like you to be the one fighting the devil.
Well, maybe you need to see the role of commissioners. The commission is made up of the commissioners and the secretariat, all of them forming the commission. According to this one, the commissioners are put here part-time to provide policy, strategy, and general oversight of the commissioners, of the secretariat. So we can meet and offer the general direction of what we want to see happen. But the day-to-day work is in the hands of the commission, of the secretariat.
You are only the chairman of.
Yes, of the entire.
But you like to play better the role to go into the community and try to change the way of thinking of people.
I would love to do that. We have opened the regions outside this Nairobi. We have almost now 12, opening 12 regional offices. Our aim is to change the narrative of the war on corruption. Getting corrupted is a very an individual matter. You make a decision and say, well, I want to change this procurement file, which wants 200,000. I put a zero, it becomes 2 million. So that's a decision you have made. But suppose you made another good decision, say you want to be honest.
But honesty doesn't come from the law.
It cannot.
No.
That's why we must talk to ourselves and see where, as Kenyans, where have we gone wrong? Why all this greed with the money?
I'm wondering to see how many Christians we have in this country, how few are really following the message of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, this country is very lucky. It has many, many churches. It has a big group, big following from the Muslims. And actually the two religions combined make Kenya. And all of them teach against corruption. And Mr. Leo, there are three professions which for me can bring a big change in this country. One is the religious sector. The second one is the teaching sector. People who teach right from primary to universities. And the third one, I think, is the medical. And that's how Jesus actually did his ministry. He will be a pastor, he will be a teacher, and he will heal. And so if we combined three of us in those three professions and aimed at changing the soul of a Kenyan, we shall make it. But you don't give up. If you give up, then you are going to lose. People ask me, why do you take this? Why can't you? I said, no, I will not give up. It's like something, I will do my part. And somebody else will come and do the rest. I know that I have so many friends like you. I have so many friends in the churches and in the mosques. So we need to join and, of course, meet other professional groups, work on the moral and the value system.
The Bible said it would be as in the time of Noah. God looked around and saw only Noah was the one following the honest way God told him to follow. Sometimes I get a feeling we are almost in that time. We all eat from the wrong trees.
Okay.
And we all think it will help us. What is your message as an archbishop to this kind of people, even the Christians who think that only money can give them peace and what they want?
Well, I think you are right in terms of, because I said we are all religious, and as you look at the way our Lord Jesus approached life, and it brought a lot of satisfaction. Money was not the answer to those problems. You can recall, he says, suppose you gain the whole world and lose your soul. Of what help is that? So the problem we have is that our doing is wrong because our being is also wrong.
You were talking about many friends who give you the strength to go on. Who are your enemies?
My enemy will be the same enemy that we are all fighting. Any forces that diminish human relationships, that take away the peace and the joy of others. And particularly corruption has come up as the biggest enemy.
It is. And if we are not winning this war, what will happen?
We must win, because if we don't, then we don't survive. But I believe from the last 2 weeks and a few things I'm seeing happening, we are going to win. The most important thing is to unite. Those forces that are against the corruption should come together and then partner to stop it, because the world over right now, the focus is on corruption. I just attended a meeting of the Commonwealth countries, and all of them are actually doing the same thing. And I can assure you, Mr. Leo, that people involved in this work in many other countries don't have many friends.
No, you're not popular.
They don't.
So maybe it would be better when you separate. You have now different commissioners, but you separate more clear the different functions you have to do, so that you're not being judged only on one thing.
Actually, as I said, when I joined this commission, one of the things that has happened has been a very high turnover of the chairpersons and the commissioners themselves. So for 1 year, I have spent trying to bring form and stability. The people asking, oh, why have we not taken straight away? You come to a house like this one, which has had all these challenges. You can't just begin running. You needed to understand what happens there. Mm-hmm. And so I had to do that to understand it and bring it together, which I'm very happy is now there, and then define these different directorates. And as I speak, we have just concluded our strategic plan, which begins 2018 onwards. We have made that very clear. And you'll see us taking all those roles at the same level, so that we are not just judged by the enforcement one.
Right.
Yeah. We are also going in for, actually these are close in my terms of reference, that we can still do what we call conciliation. If somebody feels he has stolen and wants to return, like Zacchaeus.
So you like to bring in the idea that, okay guys, you have stolen, everybody was stealing, but you like to clean up.
Yes.
What you have stolen, you don't have to give it 4 times, but give it at least 1 time.
Bring it.
Bring it, and then we will consider it and we will be nice to you only once.
We have a law that will now dictate on how to handle such a person. But what we are looking for now, going forward, is first, when we hear that the money has been taken, we look for where it is and freeze it. If you have bought houses, we shall go and take those houses.
But who will tell you?
There are quite many.
Yeah?
Right now, we receive in this office almost 300 cases every day.
Really?
Reports we have. I mean, it is massive.
Do you have enough people?
That's a challenge we have.
Yeah.
We don't have enough capacity. I noted in some other countries, just like Tanzania here, they have almost 1,500. No, is it 5,000 people employed in this?
Really?
Yes.
And how many do you have?
We have about 600.
Not enough.
No. Against 45 million people.
But it is very hard to find honest people, isn't it?
Not easy.
My last question, because I think we can talk for a long time, but your position here has always been one day in, the other day out. Let's say that tomorrow somebody don't like you being here anymore and you're changed for somebody else. What are you going to do then? Back to the church?
Well, I told them when I was being vetted, and it happens any time, you just go back to your life. What's important that you have done your part. But for me, I don't think I will go and stop this, because I can still do it whether I'm out or inside here. What is important for me is that I will do my contribution in whatever station of life.
I think, Archbishop, you're a man of faith, and the only thing I can say, I hope God will bless you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leo, and God bless you too.
Yeah.
Yes.
On the next episode of Let's Talk.
It is almost a national crisis that 40% of young people who are able and willing to work don't have an opportunity.
It's an organization that aims at empowering the young people across Kenya to be self-employed.
But what has gone wrong? I mean, you got an assignment from the president. What is the assignment?
Don't miss out on Let's Talk as you get to know more about the Youth Enterprise Development Fund as Leo Slingerland talks to Ronald Asumba, the chairman of the Youth Enterprise Development Fund. That's on Let's Talk next Friday at 8 p.m.